busy. I don't ever smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditsies. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys. We have a returning guest in the house today. We have Liisa Kovala in the house, and we're going to be talking about her 4 books today. So we just found out that the 3rd book in one series is out, so we will be talking about that book as well. But before we get started, you guys know how Miss Liz rolls. We're going to get over to all those platforms: Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, all those good platforms, and then jump over to the podcast apps, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Listen Notes, Deezer, Apple Radio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those good platforms. And then jump over to babyboomers.org. Miss Liz has been partnered with them for about 4 years. If you're looking to be featured on other podcasts, you can find a bunch of incredible podcasts over there as well. And we're going to be serving Lisa's tea, and her tea today is Nordic, Cozy, and Mystery. That is the tea we are serving today in the house. So let's get started with a disclaimer and then a beautiful intro, and we'll get Liisa in here and we'll have some fun with all of you guys. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real-life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own good judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or check out my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart. And if at any time you feel that this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness 1 cup at a time. Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where every conversation creates space for stories that deserve to be remembered, honored, and carried forward. Today, we are honored to welcome Liisa Kovala, Finnish Canadian author, award-winning book coach, podcaster, and storyteller who brings history to life through resilience, sisterhood, survival, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Liisa's books, including Like Water for Weary Souls, Sisu, Winter War, and Surviving Stuffas, are deeply rooted in Finnish heritage and the difficult stories carried by families and communities across generations. Her work explores what happens when ordinary people are placed inside extraordinary circumstances, when courage is tested, when silence carries weight, and when stories must be preserved so future generations understand not only what happened, but what it's meant for the people who lived through it. As a book coach, Liisa also helps other writers find the courage to tell meaningful stories of their own, reminding them that writing can become both an act of remembrance and a path towards healing. Today, we'll explore the inspiration behind Liisa's historical storytelling, Finnish heritage, and the meaning of Sisu, preserving difficult histories through fiction and nonfiction, women's sisterhood, survival, and courage, the emotional responsibility of writing about war and trauma, and helping other writers bring important stories into the world. Liisa reminds us that history is not only preserved in archives and dates, it lives in families, it lives in memories, and it lives in the stories people were brave enough to tell. So grab your favorite cup and join us for a heartfelt conversation filled with courage, history, resilience, and real-life tea, truth, experience, and awareness. So let me get Liisa in here and spill some tea. Welcome, Liisa.
Hi, Miss Liz. How are you?
I am not too bad. And yourself?
I'm great. Thank you for having me back.
Well, Liisa, for people who haven't heard your first tea time, share a little bit on who you were as a little girl and who you are now.
Oh, as a little girl, I was really quiet. I grew up in a Finnish household. I had Finnish and English surrounding me. I did a lot of reading and crafts and art and just really creative. And now I think I might just be an older, wiser version of that little girl who's getting to do all the things that she wanted to do back then. And maybe in her 20s was a little bit anxious or scared to do.
So, Liisa, how old were you when you started writing?
Well, I actually have a poem I wrote, and I was really young, like almost, I don't even know if I was 6 or something like that. So, I think I was writing stories right from the beginning, but I was drawing stories too. I was telling myself the story and drawing the little characters and naming them. So even before I was able to write down the story, I was kind of telling myself those stories.
Well, Liisa, you're a northern girl just like myself. So tell us a little bit about up north and what you really love about it.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful location. I think a lot of young people from Northern Ontario, probably from other places in Northern Canada, just want to get away when they are, in their teen years. They think it's a small town and nothing happens and whatnot. And I did. I went away for about 10 years and came back to raise my kids here. It's beautiful, lots of nature, trees, rocks, and some quietness. I love to spend time in nature, but there's also opportunities here to create communities of creative people. And I've met lots of writers here and lots of other artists who are doing the work. So it's quite a lovely thing to have smaller communities where you can really connect with people.
Absolutely. That's what I loved about growing up in a small community, right? Everybody knew everybody, but sometimes it wasn't good when everybody knew everybody.
That's right. That can backfire sometimes, but
just a little bit, right? So,
yeah.
Liisa, we're going to get into Like Water for Weary Souls. And I know that you got some awards lately for this book. So I want to talk about that as well. So I'm going to just bring up the book so all my listeners can see. Tell us a little bit about this book, because we shared this one on the first tea time as well.
That's right, we did. So this was my third book. I wrote 2 books that were traditionally published, and then I wrote this one, and I decided to self-publish using all the kind of skills I'd learned being traditionally published. It's set in a northern mining town. It's about 2 young women who are sisters. One's body is found in Nolan Creek, and the other sister decides, I need to find out what happened. So there's a mystery embedded in it. And, a lot about sisterhood and family and loss and sort of the secrets we tell each other and the ones we don't. So it was quite a fun journey to take and explore my own hometown while writing this as well.
Well, we got a question that came in from Layla, and it's a question for Liisa. What inspired you to tell the story behind Like Water for Weary Souls?
Yeah, so actually I was reading a book called Defiant Sisters by Vodka Lindstrom, and she's a researcher, and she was discussing in her book about immigrant women and what they were doing in Canada, but there were some chapters about Sudbury in particular and the 1930s. And as I was reading this, I thought, I didn't know this about these women. I had no idea about how during the Depression that, okay, they ran boarding houses. I knew that, but some of them were bootleggers and some of them were madams who owned brothels. And there was a whole other undercurrent that I was not aware of. So of course that captured my attention. I thought, I think there's a story here. So I thought, you kind of grab onto real historical things and then think, okay, how can I put some characters into this scenario and see what happens?
So, Liisa, can you tell us a little bit about the cover of this book and some of the awards that you received for this book?
Yeah, so the cover is by Mark Harris. He's a beautiful cover designer. And I explained to him a little bit about what the story was. And he was able to depict sort of a Northern Ontario scene. And of course, her body is found in late spring after a snowfall in a creek that runs through the city. So I felt like he really captured that emotional aspect and that landscape. And in terms of awards, I've won 3 awards for this book. So it's really gratifying. An IPPY Award and a BookFest Award and a Global Book Award for women's fiction. So that's been lovely to have, you put this out in the world, you work so hard on it and you just hope people like it. And then to get that kind of acknowledgement from your peers, it's like, okay, I feel like I'm on the right track. And readers are responding well. So that's great, that they are finding it and loving it. So that's
well, it's always nice, right? To hear that they like the book, right?
Yeah. I mean, that we write for ourselves at first, but then we're writing for somebody else and we hope that they will enjoy it.
Well, Liisa, how has your Finnish heritage influenced your storytelling?
I think it permeates all my writing. I mean, it's part of my life. So I think as a kid, you don't really realize it's just part of your culture and the society you grew up in. But it's later in life when I went away and came back that I realized how unique my childhood was, that I was immersed in Finnish culture, that I was surrounded by Finnish people in this community in a way that my own kids growing up here have not been. Like yes, they are more immersed in it than other folks, but it doesn't exist in the same way as it did when I was a kid. So my writing lets me dig into the history, dig into the kind of people I know and the kind of characters I know and the traits I admire. And it's been really fun to just explore the Finnish psyche, I guess.
So Liisa, tell us a little bit about the sisters in the book.
Yeah. So there's 2 sisters, Essie and Hannah. And Essie is our sort of amateur sleuth, I guess. And her sister Hannah is the one whose body is found. And Essie is a little bit more reserved and she's, more bookish, I guess. She likes to read and she pays attention to details, but her sister is the much more outgoing, extroverted, dreams big, thinks that she will find the husband of her dreams and live in a beautiful house and, has really big goals for herself. Essie is a little bit more moderate in terms of what she's kind of more practical. And as she investigates her sister's death, Essie learns that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than she expected from her sister. And she thought she knew her sister so well and that they told each other everything. Well, they didn't. And, Hannah had gotten herself into some trouble. So it was fun to have those sisters be really close, but also not as straightforward with each other as they, at least Essie expected. So yeah, it's just, I think that's very typical of families, right? We think we know each other really well, but there's something sometimes behind the curtains that, the other person's not revealing. And then there's this big shocker. Oh my goodness, so-and-so.
I didn't know that you did this. I didn't know you liked that one.
Right. I mean, I think we just assume that we know each other so well, but I think people are very complex and we don't tell each other everything and we hold things close to our heart and maybe for the best and maybe not. I think if she had spoken to her sister about what was really going on, there wouldn't have been a story, but I sometimes think it really happened.
Well, we talked about bootleggers and boarding houses and all that in Sudbury. I was just talking about this the other night, and I said, but all the liquors that is being sold in gas stations and grocery stores and that now, is there any more bootleggers out there?
That's a great question. I would love to know the answer to that because, like, even in the time period of this book, there, like, it wasn't that we were in prohibition anymore. Like, there was no prohibition, but it's that, like, there was people were just bootlegging and making money on their own and kind of evading paying the government, and so it was a whole other level. But that's a great question. I imagine somebody is out there making their barrel of something.
They're like, because I was thinking this the other day, Lisa, and I was like having this conversation with my daughter, and I said, like, you know what, all the grocery stores and all the gas stations now that sell liquor, do they even have any more bootleggers? Because they can get liquor at any time now.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. And I just saw a little clip of something on YouTube a while back, and it was for the States, but I'm sure it's similar to Canada. But the how drinking has actually decreased over the last several years. Yeah, every year the stats are going down. So now I didn't dig into that, so I'm not sure where that they're getting that information. But that's interesting too, that it's so available, and yet people are like, maybe not as drinking as much.
So it's like a candy bar, right? It's available at any time. So do we really want a candy bar all the time? No,
that's right.
Different.
Sure. Yes.
We have a question here from Gerald, and it is, was there a particular historical story or person that first inspired this book?
Not particular person for the characters, but certainly I based my creation of them on individuals that I knew, and they were, not one-on-one connection, but kind of a collation of a bunch of people that I knew, and thought, okay, I can kind of weave in that, and how would that person react? And so there was a lot of that happening, but not an individual. I can say this character is based on that, historical person. So, but that gives me a lot of freedom too, then, to just bring those characters wherever I want. When you base it on somebody who lived, or even use their name, then you have to be really careful about how you depict them.
So Lisa, did you find out about any lost family or anything during writing this book, or did you go down the history road? Or
yeah, not so much for my own family, because we have quite a lot of information about my own family, and when my father came in 1951, and my mother's parents, one was they both came from Finland, but at slightly different times. So we have quite a lot of information about those immigration patterns and who was here and when they came. So that's always been fascinating to me too. And of course, my mom was a great person to tell me about what life was like on the farm in Wanat, because that's where she grew up. And again, another Finnish community that, she went to school with lots of other Finnish kids, and, it was just a lot of people that immersed her in that culture. So she was able to kind of tell me what it was like. She was born in 1933, so a little bit young for my story, but not that much changed in the, the next decade or so. And she knew what it was like to live during the Depression, when things were traded and families helped each other, and you didn't have much, but you made do and you figured it out, right? So things have really changed, but I'm glad she's 93. She's still able to tell me about life back then, which is great.
Well, we have a comment here from Luxury Rental, and it is, congratulations to Lisa on the 2026 IPPY Awards Silver Recognition. That's an incredible achievement. So thank you for that.
That's so lovely.
We have a question here from Mario, and it is, what does Sissa personally mean to you beyond its historical or cultural meaning?
Yeah, I grew up understanding that term Sisu. So for those that aren't familiar with it, it's this internal strength and courage and determination. Even when you think you can't move forward, that it's, nothing, there's no way things are going to get better. You just keep pushing forward. And so I grew up with understanding that, like, innately. It was sort of part of the culture. And so I'm able to draw on it at various times in my life when I think things are really hard, when tragic things have happened. It's not that you don't absorb those things or feel those things, or you don't ignore it, but that you know that you can keep moving one foot in front of the other, and you'll get through it. So it's just kind of how I tackle things when things go wrong. I'm like, okay, well, right, like make a plan, let's go. I kind of get a little bit, I feel like I'm a very emotional person, but in those moments, I feel like I get put on that hat of like, all right, we gotta tackle this problem, go for the logic.
Just put your shoes on and do it, right? Just keep moving forward.
Figure it out. And I mean, yeah, you can have those moments of feeling what you're feeling, but also don't stay there. Just keep, find a way to make it better, to move forward, and I think writers have those problems too, like in a different scale, right? We're not talking like something really massive and tragic, but in a small way, sometimes when you're writing a book, it just feels like, I can't, like, this is not,
I can't do this.
And then you're like, okay, I just need to write a page, and I need to write another page, and like, we'll figure it out later. But it's very easy to lose track in the middle of a book, especially. You're like, oh, never, it's not working out, it's terrible, and you start to really doubt yourself. So that's when you can kind of go, no, just make the plan, keep going, and then we can come back and fix it, make it better.
Liisa, I can't remember, how long did it take to write this book again?
So it's hard for me to tell you that actual number, because I tend to write 3 books at a time, which sounds very strange. But I always have a book that I'm planning, and I usually have a book that I'm writing or like in the midst of editing, or like developmental editing. And then I usually have a book kind of closer to the end. So for instance, right now I'm planning the next cozy mystery, and I'm writing a book, a nonfiction book actually. And I have a book that I have with the editor. So there's 3 projects at 3 different stages, and they're all moving forward, but it's really hard to tell, like, well, how long did that take? But generally speaking, I would say a historical novel for me is at least 2 or 3 years, because of so much research involved. But of course, I'm doing all kinds of other things at the same time. So, but cozies take way less time for me because I'm not doing all that research.
And let's talk about the new series that you have out. I'm going to bring up book 1, and then you're going to hold book 3. But I got book 1 and 2 here. So tell me, how did you come up with the title of this and the design of this book? Because I really like this design.
Yeah, so it's called Hygge and Homicide. And so Hygge is like a Norwegian and Danish word that I love, and it's kind of permeated through North American culture in the last decade or so. It just means comfort and coziness, and like light a candle and sit in front of the fireplace and get a blanket and some tea and just be, comfortable. And I thought, what a great, for a cozy mystery, right? You want that hygge, but then the homicide part obviously throws everything sideways. And for the cover, I have a friend who writes cozy mysteries also, and she suggested cover designers that she works with. And I proposed to them, I said, like, I'm looking to really create this Scandinavian style. And I wanted to include like the designs of and the colors of Scandinavian images and folk art. And they just ran with it, and they came up with this. I was so delighted because that cover makes me so happy.
I like this cover.
Yeah.
There's a story within a story with this cover. Like there's a butterfly, there's the birds, it just kind of brings you on a journey before you even open the book.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And of course the series is called Hygge House Cozy Mystery Series because the protagonist, Minna, and her business partner, Christy, and best friend, Christy, they buy an old house that they are creating an event center, like a small event center, like a B&B, but you can have small weddings and a book club and all those kinds of things. And, Minna's mother, Elsie, is a real gardener. So they have this beautiful garden that she's creating as well. And it's on the waterfront. And so it was like, bringing that coziness in and plopping in the little details about the style and the Scandinavian nod and all of those things. So I was delighted with the cover.
So what will people find in the first book?
Yeah. So in the first book, we're really just setting up Minna's transformation from an interior designer working in the big city of Toronto, midlife woman. Daughter has graduated from university. I mean, this is like so many people can relate already. They're like, yeah, that's me. And deciding to go back to she decides to go back to her small hometown in Northern Ontario. It's fictional, called Lakewood. And just sort of start again and regroup and figure out what the next part of her life is going to look like. And unbeknownst to her, she's starting a business. And so when they have this opening day, this isn't a spoiler because you can learn this very early on, that on opening day, she comes across a body, and now she is thrown into the world of amateur sleuthing. So it's the start of a whole new phase for Minna and her friends, her mother, her daughter, her friend. There's a whole cast of characters in town with their different businesses, and it's thrown the small town off to have a murder in the community, as it would.
I just love this cover. Like when I seen the first time you were talking about this book and you were putting it out there, it's just like, oh, I really like that. Because it's got a story within itself. Like you don't even have to read the book. You just look at the cover and you're like, I wonder what's in there. Like,
yeah, I think they did an amazing job. The designers, they nailed it.
So why those colors, blue and gold?
So those are, I didn't pick them, but I did say to them that this book is set in sort of spring. So I did want to have something to nod towards that. But also this speaks to me very Scandinavian, especially Finnish, which I am, and also Swedish. Like there's a lot of blue and yellow in the Swedish color palettes often. So that's kind of where that came from, I think. Like I had shown them a couple of sample sort of folk art that had been done and some color palettes. And I was like, I kind of like these color combinations. And ultimately they made several covers that I chose from, but sort of in this style. And so it's kind of a collaborative process when you work with a cover designer, because you're, kind of have some idea, but they're the experts. And like, I couldn't do that myself. There's no way I could have created that. So they came with the skills, and I kind of came with a little bit of an inspiration board and they went with it.
It kind of reminded me of my grandma's embroidery.
Yes. Right. Like I think of it, remember that, like I used to do cross stitch when I was little.
Yes. Yeah.
All of that. Right. That kind of, those birds and the little flowers, and yes, 100%.
That's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of my grandma with the big circle and the threads, like cross stitching.
Yes, yes.
And then we did also the paint. There was like the round ball paints that you could do as well on there. Oh yeah, that's what that reminded me of. I was just like, like that's a good memory right there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I love that so much.
So with book number 2, tell us about the colors on this one, because I like the colors on this one too. Like I just like the design. Like
I do too. So in this one, it's taking place in summer, like in June, during midsummer, which in Finnish is juhannus, and Finns always have like big juhannus celebrations with big bonfires, and they gather and they have like floral crowns and all of the things. So we're setting this wedding at Hygge House during midsummer, and so we have the sort of that floral crown there, and the heart with the rings that nod towards that marriage. And I think the greens and the brighter colors kind of pop, and it's like, okay, we're going for summer here. And I also had I suggested bicycles, because Minna drives, not in Toronto, but in Lakewood, she drives her bicycle she received when she was a kid, and it is a sort of a vintage bike that she rides around town that has been fixed up for her. And so it plays a little role in these stories too. Again, they just kind of, I wanted it to be similar to the first one, but also have its own vibe and be distinctly its own. But when you put them together, you know it's part of the same series.
Absolutely.
And again, I really love what they did.
It reminds me of the little dolls.
Yeah,
the little country dolls that we used to do as I don't know if anybody did this. My grandma and some of my aunts had us paint like all of the different dolls from all the different countries.
Yes.
So that we knew like the colors of their flags as well, because some of their dresses were like the colors. And that the round wreath at the bottom, that reminds me of the girls with the flowers around their hair.
Right.
That's what that one reminds me of. It reminds me of childhood dream, like childhood crafts and time that we spent with grandma, right? So.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's that especially in Sweden, Finland, they do it too, but in Sweden, they often have those midsummer crowns made of flowers, and they're quite beautiful. And like people will just, it's midsummer and you will wear your crown. And I think, why don't we do that here? That would be so lovely. If I did that here, people would look at me sideways, be like, what is happening?
But it also reminds me of the paper dolls. Remember the little push out that you could dress them up in different outfits with just the little corners and you put them on. And you could decorate the dolls, right? It was almost like... So good memories. That's what these books remind me of, is memories. Like
it really does. Yeah. I love that those are the memories that are evoked for you, because some of those things, I'm sure they still exist, but when we're young, we all had that. And it was just such a simple, delightful storytelling tool. And now it's, you go to your phone or your iPad or your whatever. And so I think we're missing out on some of those really simple, beautiful crafts that we used to do.
Absolutely. We got to bring it all back, right? Yeah. As grandmas, we got to bring it back. We got to just bring it back.
I love that.
Yeah.
So great.
Well, Lisa, we have a couple comments here. One came in from Kelly. The ideal of preserving heritage through fiction is beautiful.
Yeah.
Then we have a question here from Real Estate with Kate. Did writing about the mysterious death of the sister change the way you personally think about justice or truth?
Oh, I love that question so much. Well, yes, I think it did. Because when I was researching the 1930s and the kinds of relationships that different communities had with the police and, what they would, like, for instance, they weren't really willing to investigate Hannah's death because they thought it was an accident and she's just an immigrant girl and who cares? Like, right? Like just kind of this, like we're going to take the big cases. We don't really care about this. Maybe she, it was an accident or she did it to herself or whatever. And when I was reading about those kinds of things, I thought, like, it's so terrible that even now we have different communities that are, that those crimes aren't necessarily investigated or followed, or we don't know about. And then something happens to somebody else and all of a sudden it's a big deal and it's all over the news. And, so there's a real disparity there. And justice is not necessarily available to everybody. So Essie really does take it into her own hands to, seek justice. And I thought the idea of truth, that's interesting that you ask also about truth, because like I really wanted to explore how these, all of the characters are like trying to live in the best way they can with what they have in really difficult circumstances and making some very difficult choices that we might look down upon, but also I hope that we empathize with, right? Like I tried not to judge these women at all. They all were just trying to keep going. And sometimes the truth was hidden, and sometimes for various reasons, they kept it from somebody else, or we don't want to hurt that person, or we don't want our mother to know because it would devastate her. Like there's so many little instances of truth being hidden. And I'm a real proponent of telling the truth, but then you start to go, okay, but also there's a reason, and there's like, you can't really judge them for doing that. So it gets complex, right? Because you have your own thought about what you think it is, but then your characters are like, yeah, but that's not who we are. And that's not our life. And that's not what's happening to us. And so I have to listen to them. they're telling me. I didn't do that, but also they do.
Well, you know, and back in those days, everything that happened behind closed doors stayed behind closed doors, you
Yeah.
know, and there
Right.
was a lot of children that were lost during those times, right? In the
Yes.
30s and 40s that nobody spoke of.
Yeah.
You seen like a stone or something at a cemetery and you wonder what the story was because there were so many young children that were passing, right?
Yes, absolutely, for sure. And I have a situation where I won't give too many details, but somebody is pregnant and, through, not their choice. And then it's a decision about what to do about that. But there's no resources for the women. There's no care for them. And no wonder so many people um, died because they made choices that were not, that were unhealthy, like because they didn't have the medical care to help them.
Yeah.
So it gets complicated, right? Like whatever you personally believe about something, hopefully it challenges you to go, well, okay, that's not for me, but I understand why so and so in that situation would make a choice for themselves, and that at least they should have had what they like the resources to help them. So, I think it's important that we don't like veer away from all the hard topics.
Yeah.
And I don't want to preach and tell anyone what to think or believe. You have to do that for yourself. But also, we are sometimes very judgmental in our society.
Well, there was a lot of stories in the 30s and 40s that, you know, people weren't comfortable talking about.
That's right.
Where today they are comfortable talking about it
Yes.
because it's a more open communication, right? But
Yeah.
back then it was don't mention that baby, don't mention that child, don't
Right.
mention,
Yes.
that
They
husband, don't
never
mention like,
existed. Yeah.
you know,
Right. But the problem with like, I think it's wonderful that we're more open and we have more open conversations. I think that's wonderful. But also, our society is so ready to vilify anyone whose ideas are different or who has chosen something different for themselves. And I think this is like, we have pushed that too far.
Yeah.
And we need to pull that back and go, okay, wait a minute, pause and think about this human being. And when you start to think about, instead of your opinion and I'm right, and you think about the other human being, then it changes your mind sometimes about what you might say about those things.
absolutely. You know, because you don't know the story of someone until
Yeah.
they tell the story.
That's
And some
right.
people will never tell the story.
That's right. Yes, they bring it to the grave, and we don't know, and that's quite sad to me that when people don't share what's like even family stories, they go, and then sometimes that there's a revelation down the road that this happened and no one knew, and it's just such a shame because I think the family in general will want to support each other through these things, but it's not always part of a family's dynamic to share.
Absolutely. Well, we have a question here about the threes. How do those three parts of your work influence each other when you were talking about three books?
Oh yeah. How
So
do they
how do-
influence each other? So yeah, that's interesting. I'm not sure quite how to answer that or if I'm understanding the question, but yeah, these three books as a whole are both individually a story on their own, but because they have these same characters and same town, there's an overarching storyline in there as well. And I love that that you can read it on your one sitting, one book, and that's good. But then if you read it all, you can see how Minna is starting out kind of like a little bit unsure of herself and a little anxious, and then is starting to develop some new skills as an amateur sleuth. And she's not perfect. She makes mistakes and she does things that she probably shouldn't. And you see her taking more risks in book 2 and in book 3. But so I love watching those characters evolve over the books for myself. And then, so for me, like in terms of my own writing, it's just like I have 3 more books planned for this series. So it's thinking about the individual stories themselves, but then thinking, okay, where did Minna start this journey and where do I want her to land in the end? And how are they all the characters gonna get there and satisfactorily end that series so that they all have what they need. And it may be, what they wanted, or it may be something else, right? Just sometimes what we want is not what we need.
Absolutely. Right. Sometimes we're like, no, I think I need it. And no, you don't.
No, that is not what you need.
Well, the next question comes in from Michael, and it's, how important was it for you to bring the Finnish culture and tradition into the story authentically?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And like, I am Finnish Canadian, so that's really different from being Finnish. So I just had a cousin here with me for a couple of days traveling. She's been in Canada for a year, but she's, stopped to see us, and then she's off to Toronto and various places before she goes back to Finland. And we were making a lot of comparisons between Finnish culture and Canadian culture, and then this little hybrid Finnish Canadian, because I grew up here, and then but in a Finnish community, but again, a Finnish Canadian community, which is different from a modern Finnish, like she's a younger woman living in modern Finland, and my parents came, like my grandfather came in 1917. So like, that's a whole other Finland that he lived in. So like, it's its own hybrid thing. So I definitely had to do a ton of research for my books, especially the historical ones. I really wanted to get things right. I'm lucky to have relatives I can email and say, I have, especially one of my cousins, Mala, I'm always emailing her saying, is this like, am I getting this right? And she'll say, yes. But also, and, so I love that there's been so much research done by experts. And then there's so many anecdotal things I can draw on in my own experiences, but also people who are living there now. So it's really important to get it right, and not to say that you ever, like, I mean, I'm sure it's possible to get it wrong too, right? Like, or it doesn't apply to everybody. I might put a characteristic for a character in one of the stories that is authentically Finnish to me, but it doesn't mean every Finnish person is like that. Just like, Canadians are in every way, we are completely different, and Americans Absolutely. Too, right? So, I don't want to also like stereotype anyone.
Well, the next question we have is from Everything Jackson, Jacksonville. And it's, as a book coach, what is one mistake you see new writers making when they're trying too hard to make their stories perfect?
That's a great question. There's so many things I could say here, but I think one of the main things is they will pause often. They know what their story is, and I think there's a desire for it to be perfect. So they'll circle around the beginning, and they'll like, oh, that's not good enough, and I'll rewrite that. I'll rewrite, so that they're never actually getting to the end of that draft, and that's very frustrating for them. But also they feel like they're making progress because that opening chapter is better, but it's still not there yet. And my suggestion always is get through that first draft quickly, because it's going to be garbage, generally speaking.
It's the rough draft.
It's called the rough draft. It's the vomit draft. And then you can go back, and now you know this. You've told yourself the story. You know the story you want to tell. And then you can go back and play and rewrite and reorder and add things in and change it. But when you're circling around that opening to get it perfect, you're not getting anywhere, because actually once you finish writing a first draft, you might realize, oh, that's not actually the opening at all. And you're going to ditch it anyway. So why spend all that time, rewriting. So I think that's what I worry about, writers getting stuck in a spot without going like, okay, just write the story. Let it be terrible. It's okay. Because you have lots of time to fix it. And it's going to, you can make it as brilliant as you want, but let's get that story down first.
Well, Liisa, let's talk about the third book, because you have the third book. I don't have it yet.
Yes.
So let's talk about the third book.
So I'll just hold it up. I don't know if you can see that. So that's the author copy. So it's got the line across the middle, which that says not for resale, because I don't actually have my author copies here yet. I think they'll be here next week. And this one's called Murder by Nordic Design. And you can see the fall colors there. I've got some little foxes at the top. And so it's taking place during Lakewood's Fall Fair. We all love a fall fair in a small community with everyone comes out to help. And we've got the bands playing, and we've got the vendors and all the things. But in this, of course, I'm going to like lean into something that has to do with Nordic culture. So by by now, if you read book 1 and 2, you're like, okay, what's Liisa going to do this time? Well, this time, Christy and Minna, with the help of their ever-present James, they're building a sauna on the property, which is so important for Finnish and Nordic people. I think there's probably more saunas in Finland than there are like
Really?
Oh yeah, I think there's like for every 2 people there's a sauna. I don't know what the stats are, but there's a lot. And I grew up. I didn't have a bathtub in my house. I had a sauna in my house. I have a sauna at camp. In fact, I have a sauna in my current house outside too, like a wood burning one. So it's part of like every daily life. Like your sauna is just part of the culture. So they're building one for their hygge house for their guests to enjoy and have that kind of spa-like experience and have that dip in the lake or maybe a roll in the snow or whatever it's going to be. So that's kind of the premise, is that they're building this sauna and they have all these carpenters working for them to get all this ready for the fall fair. And well, they're going to find a body as they always do. Poor Minna. This town is starting to get a reputation.
There's a body somewhere, everywhere.
I know, like the crime rate there has just skyrocketed since she arrived. Yeah, so it's been really fun.
So is that an Easter egg? Since she came to town, there's bodies?
Well, she has been accused of that a few times by different characters. One of them is Martha, who's the police dispatcher, and so just a little backstory. Minna and Christy were always a little on the adventurous side when they were kids and kind of getting into a little bit of trouble and maybe doing some kind of amateur sleuthing then too. And, Minna and Christy were sometimes brought home by the police after having been lost or not having done anything nefarious. But Martha has been one of these long-standing police dispatchers in town and remembers her as a young person and is saying like, since you got back here, things have changed.
You've been bringing trouble, girl.
She feels a little responsible, although it's not her fault. But it's just that even if somebody mentions that since you came, now you're shouldering a bit of that responsibility, and the thought that she would be not only her business could be in jeopardy, and but also the townsfolk. Like, you don't need a murder right before a fair, like your biggest town event. Like, that's not good for anyone's business, right? Because a lot of guests might be like, I'm not coming to town now. So you just, so that it's kind of fun to play with that too. Like, it's not her fault, but also you carry things people say to you and the desire to make it right and make it better. Cause she is, like, we were talking about justice earlier. She's somebody who needs justice. Like, she's not going to just walk by and, oh, that bad thing happened, and I hope the police find out what happened. Like, she can't help herself but get involved because she just needs to make it better for everybody. So it's just part of her personality that drives her.
So does she get involved with the officers?
So we have a detective, Christopher Whitford, who's been in town for a very long time, remembers her as a young person. He was a young officer when she was a kid, as a teenager. Now he's like a detective, and he's responsible for the, investigating these crimes and bringing his units out. And he knows her, her personality. So yes, he's I wouldn't say he is necessarily he's not terrible to her, but he's like no, you can't get involved in this. Like, let me do my job. And kind of rightfully so, but also she's pretty good at it. She finds things that he doesn't. So on the one hand, I think he probably like admires her in a way, and in another hand, he's like, you need to step away.
Love and hate relationship.
Right? Yeah. So I kind of love that little connection they have, because he remembers she was, kind of got into a little bit of trouble as a young person, and he is like he did drive her home a couple times and to her mom and be like, well, here's your kid. And now he's like, Minna, like, you got to stop. So these, like you said earlier, small towns, Northern Ontario towns, small towns, everyone knows everyone's business and they have long memories of who you were. And even though you've been away and been a successful interior designer in Toronto, you're still the girl that lived here when you were young. And I remember what you did then. So,
or your old northern town says, wow, where did she go away?
That's right. Yes. Right. And
didn't see that happening. Didn't see that coming.
They don't want you to bring any errors back. Like, you're not better than anyone else either. Right. Like, you got to tap that down because you're just like everyone else. You're from here, no matter how successful you were elsewhere. So, there's all those kind of little town dynamics happening as well.
Well, I know back in the day when I was a teenager, they had the siren, right? And if you weren't home when that siren went off, you were getting home with the cops. They were bringing you home. The street lights would go off at 10 o'clock. And if you were on the streets, the cops were bringing you home. And yes, I did get home a couple of times with the cops. It was like 10:02 or 10:05. And I was like,
they know
I'm on my way home.
So great. Oh, was that in Timmins, Miss Liz? I forget where
in Hearst.
In Hearst.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's something, right? That's a small town when they can even have the police do that.
Oh,
They're not that busy. They have time to bring the kids home.
And you tell the kids about that today, and they're like, "What siren?" And I was like, "There was a siren, and the lights went off, and you were to get home."
That's right.
That's how we knew to get home, was when that siren came.
That's so funny. We knew to get home because the lights turned on, like the street lights came on.
And the street lights came on.
It's time to go. Stop that game we're playing. We got to go. The lights are on. It's getting dark.
But that's what I mean. We were out till dark, right? We weren't just 5 minutes outside. We were out to the dark, and
that's right.
We were getting into trouble, like a lot of things that nobody will ever know about us because the internet wasn't there to tell.
That's right. Right. Yeah, it's true. And parents didn't really ask too many questions as long as you got home safely. And you're home, you're safe, you're in bed. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Right? We were lucky. No internet, no cell phones to track us.
So Liisa, you said you're working on 3 books. So is there another book coming out soon? Because this one just came out, the 3rd book, you said, on the 3rd of August. So is there another one coming soon?
So this one won't be too soon because I have, so I'm working on book 4, the planning of it. My original intention was to have it out for Christmas, but then I have sort of a contract with a publisher to work on 3 nonfiction books. And so I needed to make a little bit of space for those. So I'm working on the first of those, and the next mystery will probably be next, hopefully like March or April of next year. And then I'll have 3 in a row then. So yeah, every time, I like to have this number of projects going, but then you're also like, okay, I have to make sure I have time to do all the things and do a good job of all of them. So I thought, okay, I can just we have 3 out now, let them do their thing for now, let readers explore them. And then we can put out another 3 next year and finish the series. So in the meantime, I'm working on researching the nonfiction book. And then I have a book with the editor, which is historical fiction. And I have a cover already for that. And so that'll probably come out next year as well. So lots of, what do they say? Irons in the fire.
Well, I want to talk about your tea that you gave me, because your tea was Nordic, cozy, and mystery. And then I've seen another tea that came in reading, writing, and mentoring. I guess I put that somewhere else, and somebody caught that. So let's talk about reading, writing, and mentoring first, Liisa, and then we'll get into the Nordic, cozy, mystery.
Yeah, I love that because, so I'm an avid reader and I like to read everything. I have, I don't read in one genre. I've always read cozy mysteries. I've always read literary fiction, historical fiction. I read memoir, biographies. And I think that's really important that we don't limit ourselves to one genre necessarily. Yes, like you can lean into the thing you love. If you love romance, read the romance, but then take some time here and there to explore other things, and gets you thinking about lots of other ideas. So reading has just been integral to my whole life, right from a child. My mother always, look, we didn't get a lot of toys, but she would buy you books. We'd go to the library. Like, books were like kind of an okay thing, whereas toys were like, well, wait till Christmas or wait till your birthday or whatever it is. But books were always encouraged. So I thank my mother for that. And I think that those folks who want to write need to lean into reading. Like, I once had a friend who was wanting to write a novel, and he said, well, I don't really read. And I thought, well, okay, I'm not sure how this is going to work. Like, how do you know even what is out there in that genre? How do you so in the end, he started reading young adult fiction just to see, like, okay, how are they written? Like, what kinds of books are out there? And then he started to like, oh, okay, my writing's more like this and not like that. And like, it gave him some confidence too. So that's, I think, really important for writers, that they're readers. And if you don't love to read as a writer, I suggest, you're not reading the right things. You will find things you love. You
Absolutely.
Something for everybody. And of course, mentoring is just, my book coaching is what I do now. It's that marriage of my love of reading, my love of teaching, and my love of writing. And I love to see other writers find their voice and tell their stories, and just be really proud of the things that they create and put it out in the world for other people to enjoy. I just think it's the most magical thing to tell a story and give it to somebody else who will absorb it. Like, it's just magic. So yeah, that's where that's coming from.
And the other two you gave me was Nordic, cozy, and mystery. Those three words. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about those words.
Yeah. So Nordic is definitely so I've always been writing about Finnish characters and history. And so, of course, Finland's part of the Nordic countries. But for the Hygge House Cozy Mystery series, I really thought, okay, I can at least branch out to the Nordic countries. So Iceland and Sweden and Norway and Denmark. And so that was really fun, because that also lets me explore some of the other cultures that I'm familiar with. I have my husband's, some of his family, are Australian, but they're originally Norwegian. And my sister-in-law, Garita, is Swedish. So she's been excellent at, every time I have questions about Sweden, I say, Krita, is this the right thing? And so it's a way of exploring the Nordic countries, because I think there's a particular culture there as a whole. And I think that people in the world don't always necessarily know very much about those countries. They're pretty small, and they're, they're not very much like the look at me. Like, they do their, maybe, some of them for hockey, or, maybe some kind of cinnamon bun or something. But yeah, so I feel like that was kind of an important idea to lean into for this one. And then that idea of hygge, which is that coziness. The whole series, I made her an interior designer, partly because I love interior design. Maybe if I wasn't a teacher, I would have been an interior designer. I love it so much. And I just wanted her to be a Scandinavian interior designer who had that aesthetic, but was seeking this hygge, this coziness in her life. Like, she's left the big city, she's left her job to create this life that is, and I think what we all want, right? Like, slow things down, like inner peace, some tranquility, some not feel like that hustle all the time. So that kind of idea of hygge or coziness was super important to this series. And I think many of us can relate. at least I feel like I need less busy and more like centeredness. And of course, the idea of mystery. So I came from the world of writing historical fiction, and I'm still writing historical fiction. But that first mystery with Water for Weary Souls, that's where I really leaned into the mystery aspect. And I loved it so much. And I thought, okay, I was thinking about writing something like maybe a romance series, but I landed on cozy mystery, partly because I grew up reading Agatha Christie. I grew up watching, you know, those television shows with mysteries, and I just love them so much. So yeah, it was a choice about what genre I wanted to write next. And I thought, okay, I'm loving writing this historical mystery, so let's actually lean into learning how to write the cozy mystery, because every genre is different. It has its own tropes and things to pay attention to. And yeah, so that's where I landed. But I'm still going to go back and forth between the historical and the cozies, and I'm writing nonfiction as well. So it doesn't mean I won't write anything else. Maybe I'll have like Finns in space someday. I don't know.
We just never know where we're going, right?
I don't know. Anything is possible, but for the time being, I'm really happy writing these kinds of books, and I'm so grateful that readers are enjoying them and embracing them.
Well, Liisa, if anybody wanted to have you on their podcast or radio show or anything like that, how could they reach you?
Yeah, so there's a contact form on my website. It's liisakovala.bookcoach.com. And that's a really easy way to get in touch with me. Liisa with 2 I's, because, you know, I'm Finnish. That's how we spell it there.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Liisa. I really enjoyed this conversation together and getting your books out there and just seeing you again, because it's always nice when I have a return guest, because the ice is already broken. I want to thank everybody for joining us in the studio today and bringing your questions and your support. We could not do this without all of you guys. I love doing these live shows because you just never know who's going to tune in or who's going to ask a question. So thank you guys for that. Just going to do a quick recap of what today's tea time is, and we'll be back at 7 p.m. And then Miss Liz is off for 12 days, so I will not be around for 12 days. Miss Liz is taking vacation. And then we'll be back on the 25th and 27th, and we'll do this all over again with you guys. What a powerful and deeply moving conversation we have shared today. Liisa, thank you for bringing your compassion, research, storytelling, and respect to the history to the tea time table. Today's conversation reminded us that some stories are too important to be forgotten. Through Like Water for Weary Souls, Sisa, Winter War, and Surviving Suka, you preserved voices shaped by war, discipline, survival, family, and the extraordinary courage required to keep going when life becomes almost unimaginable. We explored Finnish history, sisterhood, resilience, generational memories, and the responsibilities writers carry when transforming painful history into stories readers can emotionally understand. One of today's greatest takeaways is this: remembering history is not about living in the past. It's about carrying its lessons responsible in the future. Liisa, your work reminds us that resilience does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet. Sometimes it is simply getting through another day. Sometimes it's protecting a loved one. Sometimes it is telling a story decades later so that the people who endure it are never reduced to a forgotten footnote. As we close today's tea time, I'd like to leave everyone with this thought. Whose story in your own family or community is waiting to be preserved before time carries it away? Because when we listen deeply, document carefully, and share with compassion, we do more than preserve history. We preserve humanity. Liisa, thank you for using your voice to honor those who came before us and for helping new generations of writers find the courage to tell stories that matter. Until next time, continue preserving truth, continue honoring courage, and continue serving real life tea, experience, awareness, and one meaningful story at a time. And today's takeaway from Miss Liz is some stories survive because someone refuses to let them disappear. When we preserve history with compassion and courage, we give the past a voice, the present a deeper understanding, and the future a chance to learn. And I'll see everybody at 7 p.m. and we'll do this all over again.